I don't care where you're at, okay? Birmingham, Alabama, Mumbai, India, Los Angeles, Canada, I don't care where you're at. The number one business in the world, Joey, is banking.
Most business owners are great at making money, but they lose control the moment it hits their account.
First 3 or 4 years I was a business owner, I doubled in revenue, but there was no more money available than there was in year 2 than there was in year 5. And I'm sitting there going, where's all the deadgum money? So we take money to give it to the bank, okay? They give us a little bitty smidgen of a percentage of interest to hold that money there. They then take that money and they let everybody else use our money at a rate that is so many more percentage points above what they're giving us.
Why is it so unheard of?
I talked to a guy the other day that was net worth over $300 million. He didn't understand it, didn't know what it was. I borrowed $200,000 off of that policy and I gave it to Travis. He is giving me 15% to use that money. The money in that account is still growing.
So basically building that IBC account kind of helps you act like a billionaire.
It's the same thing.
All right. Welcome to Beyond the Bottom Line. I'm your host, Joey Lalonde, and this show is about pulling back the curtain on how the ultra wealthy actually protect and grow their money without the gatekeeping and the complexity. Each week, I sit down with elite experts working with top business owners and ultra wealthy families to reveal practical strategies that business owners can use today to keep more of what they earn and pay less in taxes illegally. Today's episode is going to be different. My guest today isn't just a financial advisor. He's actually a fellow business owner's first and foremost. Thomas Cox runs multiple companies out of Birmingham, Alabama, a catering business, a destination wedding company, multifamily real estate, and a private lending operation. He's also the host of the Owner's Table podcast with over 100 episodes. But what makes Thomas unique is what he discovered along the way, that a financial system that the ultra wealthy have used for generations to keep their money liquid, protected, and compounding, even while they're deploying it to fund deals, grow businesses, and build cash flow. And it's called the infinite banking concept. So we're definitely going to dive into this. And Thomas doesn't just teach it. He uses it every day across his own businesses. So that's what makes it special. So if you ever felt like you're great at making money, but you're also great at, you're not so great at keeping it working for you well, or you've ever wondered why your financial advisor never talks about that stuff, this conversation could be a game changer for you. And how do you think about money? So without further ado, welcome to the show, Thomas.
Hey, thank you so much, Joey. Great to be here.
Yes, sir. Thomas, you said something we were talking before the show that shook me and stopped me. I want to start with this. You said that most business owners are great at making money, but they lose control the moment it hits their account, right? And I think every business owner, myself included, watching this felt that. Like we're all good at making money, and then you pay your taxes, you put some away, and somehow it still doesn't feel like it's working for you, right? So as a business owner, first and foremost yourself, someone who runs multiple different companies, what did you see in your own finances that made you realize that the system was broken?
I saw a lot of people that were really good at the thing that they did, but the difference in being really good at your craft, okay, selling, it's good at your craft. Restaurants, chefs, they're really good at cooking, things like that. But there's so much more to running a business, whether it be tons and tons of employees or a sole proprietor. There's so much more to running a business. You have costs, you have inflow, you have outflow, you have taxes, you have investments down the line, you have margin. I could go on and on about all the things that we've done in business. But here's the one commonality. Every business owner at some point or another has to be able to manage the money that comes in and the money that goes out. Okay. You have to know where it's going at all times. And so as a business owner, you have to be aware, keenly aware of all of those things on top of the craft that you're using to make money. There's guys out there that run landscaping businesses. They're wonderful at that thing. But being able to manage A, employees, and B, the finances and the money, the inflows and the outflows is a really, really difficult thing.
I agree. I totally agree with you. And you don't get teach that in school, right? Or you never learn about that unless you go the extra mile and see it by yourself. What makes you say that the system is broken?
Because I see it in my business and I saw it in other people's businesses, so like the first 3 or 4 years I was a business owner, I doubled in revenue. But there was no more money available than there was in year 2 than there was in year 5. Yeah. So we go double year 1, double year 2, double year 3, get to year 4. We don't quite double, but we're close. And I'm sitting there going, where's all the deadgum money? You know what I'm saying? So I started to see, okay, where's the hole here? Well, what happens is a buddy of mine, Jeremy Simmons, a great friend of mine, he's grew multiple businesses. He looked at me one day on my podcast and he said, growth is expensive. And if you can't manage that expense and be able to look and say, okay, is this a good spend on our dollar? Then you probably don't need to do it, or you need to hedge that number and figure out, okay, this needs to be a little bit of a smaller number. So being able to see those things and see my own business is like, man, what is going on here?
And how did you do to fix that?
The biggest thing I did to fix it was there's 2 things. Okay. The old school way before I found about the thing that I do now is, the first thing I did was I read a book called Profit First.
Yeah.
You ever heard of that book?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, Mike Malkowitz is an absolute stud. Never met him. Love to meet him one day.
Yeah.
He's a genius guy. And so I started doing that process where every time, every week or every month, whatever your flow system is, I would allocate the gross income into different accounts, different accounts at the bank. I would put those monies in those different accounts. So when tax time come, I wasn't stressed. So when I needed to get paid my salary, I wasn't stressed because it was already over here. Or when I needed to pay sales tax, it was over here. Yeah. So that is where I created what we call margin. Okay. And margin was never evident enough than in 2020, when the whole world shut down and businesses ceased to exist or cease to generate income almost overnight. Yeah. And the ones that had margin, meaning they knew that it wasn't going to be forever, that their business was going to be like this, but they knew it was going to be some time, they could pull from that margin and keep everything running, keep employees paid, keep the lights on, the proverbial lights on. When you have margin in your business, you can do so many more things. It gives you so much more freedom. That was the first thing, Joey. Yep. The second thing is I talked to other business owners, and I've been blessed enough never to have to use debt in business. But as I also talked to other business owners, I realized that people were using debt. People were using banks. People were using hard money to fund the thing that they do. Okay? Yep. And as I saw that, I started to see how much money people were spending on money, if that makes sense. They were spending money on money. And when you start to add those, quote, finance numbers up, it gets to be astronomical and it can be shocking.
Why do you think the financial system, the banks and just mainstream doesn't want business owners to know that, or doesn't advertise strategies to help that? Or I don't know, maybe they do and business owners are just not aware where to get that information. I think that's where the broken part comes from, no?
Yeah. So I don't care where you're at. Okay. Birmingham, Alabama, Mumbai, India, Los Angeles, Canada. I don't care where you're at. The number one business in the world, Joey, is banking. It is. Yeah. It goes back to ancient times. The number one business in the world, and this will probably never change, is banking. The largest building in your city is probably the bank. The largest building in my city is the bank. Banking is the number one business in the world because this is crazy, but everything in the banking business runs off of capital that's not theirs.
Yeah.
Okay. So we take the money to give it to the bank. Okay. They give us a little bitty smidgen of a percentage of interest to hold that money there. They then take that money and they let everybody else use our money at a rate that is so many more percentage points above what they're giving us. They're in essence making the spread. Yeah. And that money in a lot of ways gets really, really expensive, Joey. And so being able to sit there and go, okay, this banking function, God, these guys are killing it. They make a lot of money. But the solution was for me, and what made the light bulb go off was, okay, my mentor sat down with me and said, hey, Thomas, I want you to continue to do what you're doing. I want you to continue to own multifamily. I want you to continue to own these businesses. I want you to continue to do hard money lending.
Yeah.
But also be in the banking industry. I was like, dude, what are you talking about? So that's when I was introduced to infinite banking and how I can create a bank inside my own system that I can benefit from. So here's what's crazy. No lie. 2 minutes before you called, one of my best friends called and said, what are you using for business capital? I can't make this up. Okay. He just got off the phone with him. And I said, what are you talking about? He has to buy something for his business. I said, well, the number one thing I'm going to use is my IBC credit, my infinite banking account.
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, okay. That's what I thought. The question always comes up because people want to continue to grow their businesses, whether it be to spend more money on ads in a financial service business, or to have more equipment in a landscaping business, or a restaurant, whatever the thing is. People are always going to need more capital, but being able to use your own capital in your own banking system is a life-changing thing, especially from the financial standpoint.
Huh. So the solution you're saying, from what you've seen, to kind of fix that issue and unbreak that financial problem that most business owners have, would be that infinite banking concept you're saying, right?
Yes. That is kind of 1A, 1B. 1A is operating margin.
Yeah.
Operating margin. Like, if
when
you
say that, you mean having like enough margins to, like, if something hits the fan, then you're good.
Yes.
Right?
You have to have margin. Listen, Joey, we have to have margin in every part of our life. We have to have margin in our time, getting up in the morning, going to work. We have to have margin in how long it's going to take me to drop my kids off at school. We have to have margin everywhere.
Relationships.
But in the financial part, in relationships, in the financial part, if I've got $10,000 to spend on payroll and cost of goods sold and advertising, don't go over that. Like, how much do you have? Don't go over that amount. And that sounds really, really simple. Yeah. But sometimes as business owners, we want to drive the fancy car, wear the fancy clothes, look the part, when in reality, owning a freaking business is hard.
Yeah. Talk to me about it.
It is really, really hard. And a lot of times we are the ones that get paid the least, the last.
Oh, for sure.
In order to get that proverbial flywheel going. Now, once the flywheel is going, then that's a different story. But for the first however many months or years, bro, it's not easy. And you got to create margin when you're small, because when you can create margin when you're small, it doesn't seem like it's adding up. But as I grow, that margin continues to grow, and it grows with you. And when you do, you have more capital that you can do more things with.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially today, where things are moving extra faster than it has ever been with AI and everything. Like, who knows where we're going to be in 5 years? Like, if your business is even going to be relevant in 5 years, if you don't have margins for that, like, I don't know if you heard about that new cloud bot, or it's like this new thing that you just buy a Mac Mini, and then you put in place like an AI, and it's like an assistant that runs your old computer. You give them access to your WhatsApp, your email, your Google Drive, and they do whatever you want them to do. Like, there's obviously a lot of flaws right now, so it's not fully done, but like, it's like, we're in 2026. So 2027, 2028, 2030, like, where are we going to be? If you don't have margins for that, for sure. So margins 1A, and second would be the infinite banking concept you're saying, right?
Yeah. IBC has changed our life from a financial standpoint, just simply because we take back the banking function in our life. When we can take back the banking function in our life, we can cycle so much more cash into our system. The guy that came up with this proverbial system, a guy named Nelson Nash, and he says you finance everything you do, you finance. Either you're borrowing money from the bank or somebody else and paying an interest rate and financing that, or you're using cash. When you use cash, you're losing the opportunity cost on the dollar that you spent paying in cash that could have been earned somewhere else. So I'm either paying interest over here or I'm losing interest over here. So everything we do is financed in life. With infinite banking, what we can do is we can take back that banking function in our life. And Einstein said it, one of the, eighth one of the world, seventh one of the world is compound interest. When you can compound on dollars over time, it's it's a phenomenon that you've never ever seen anything like, and what it can do. That thing there can just be so freeing as far as from a business owner's perspective.
That's good. That's good. And I definitely want you to dive deeper into the IBC concept and how to make it super clear and easy to understand. Because even for me, I still have some questions and I'm not even sure how it is. So I definitely want to dive into that. But just for the audience as well, I want to kind of paint the picture and share more about who you are. So I know that you were a football coach, right? College football coach, to now building multiple businesses. Becoming what you call the private banker for your own business. Walk us through that journey, right? Because I think it's important for the audience to hear isn't coming from someone just trying to sell something. Like you actually have some life experience. So, what's that journey been like?
Context is always good. So from the time I was 5, I knew what I was going to do. I was going to be a college football coach. My dad's a Hall of Fame coach in the state of Alabama, and I knew that I was going to co-coach college football. So that's what my really world revolved around. Now, there's a finance piece in there where I always saw my parents argue about money when I was a kid. And I thought to myself, I don't ever want to argue about money. I don't. And so I started dollar cost averaging in the market when I was 18 years old. I had $2,000 when I graduated from high school. I spent $1,000. I gave $1,000 to a guy in the church who was a financial advisor. He put it in mutual funds, and he said, send me $25 every month. I said, okay. What am I doing? What am I doing with this $25? He said, I'm going to put it in the stock market. I said, great. So I just started dollar cost averaging at 18. And honestly, I did it all through college and even my earlier jobs when I was coaching. And that dollar just built. It just built and built and built and built and built and built. And I just shut my eyes and didn't even pull anything out of it. So I started coaching college football, did that for about 10 years. And then my heart got moved. I got out of it. Can't really explain it. Just the Lord moved us out of that. I started working at a church just because I didn't have a job. I had a great job, loved my job, but quit my job, started working at a church. I was there 3 months. My boss walks in and says, can you help me with a meal plan? So this is back before you could pick up your phone and find a meal plan in 30 seconds. So I started doing meal plans for this guy, and it just snowballed from there. Fast forward over the next 5 or 6 years, we did thousands of meal plans for people in 27 different countries. It's astronomical. It's crazy. Well, after working at that church for about 2 years, year and a half, 2 years, I parlayed that and I started doing my own thing. Scared, golly, I was as scared as a cat in a rocking chair factory. I didn't know what I was going to do. So I made the leap and started my own business. And then the meal plans parlayed into meal prep. Again, way before this, where we are today. And then after meal prep, I started catering. Now, I really have this theory, Joey, to sidebar on you. I think that all businesses need 3 streams of income. Whatever it is you're doing, there needs to be 3 sources of income and how you're generating it, whether that be your household, with your business, or whatever. So those 3 sources stayed consistent throughout the food journey in our life. Okay, so it started out being meal plans, meal prep, and then catering. Then it went from restaurant, meal plans, and catering. It just is morphed. Now here, I still own the catering companies. Don't have to do near as much of that anymore. But we've got vending machines all around Birmingham. We feed a small college, and we have 2 catering companies. So there's still three separate things there. So we just started building this business. And honestly, it was like coaching hours, worked a ton of hours, and just built it. Now, I had a restaurant for a little bit, but I realized quickly, Joey, that I did not want to be in the restaurant business. You say, well, you're in the food business. Yeah. But every dollar that goes out or comes in, I know that the dollars are coming in before I buy the food. It's a major difference in having a catering company and feeding a college than it is having a restaurant. Because if the weather's bad or it gets too cold or too hot or something, people don't show up to your restaurant. Yeah. So not a huge fan. Margins are super thin, So we decided to stay out of the restaurant business and then to screw that. 2017, I saw a video and you know Grant Cardone. Probably seen Grant Cardone all over the internet. Okay. So Grant Cardone said, why would I buy a single family home and rent it out when I can buy an apartment building? And I'm going to be honest with you, Joey, that 5-second statement changed my thought about creating wealth outside of my business. So I took a lot of that money that we had made in the market over those, 15 years, and we bought our first apartment complex. Okay. We had an aggressive pay down structure, which I wouldn't have done again, but we did. And then 2 years later, we pulled some money out of that apartment complex and bought another one. And then 2 years later, I bought one by myself. And so in that journey of being owning my own business, I love the money, but more than anything, Joey, I was unemployable at that point. I loved the fact that I didn't have to work for anybody, even though if I went and got a job, I would have probably worked less. But I'm creating something, and I'm in control over that. And I love that aspect of owning your own business. I love that aspect. And so we start the food businesses are going, we've got the real estate. And then from there, we got involved in private money, okay? Private money, private credit, whatever you want to call it these days. People call it alternative investing. I don't know. We've been doing it for years, but it caught me, okay? I had excess cash from the times we had made, the margins we had in the business. I just allocated money in different places. And so I had money to play with or to invest. And I started doing private money lending. I would lend money to house flippers, and I would create a spread off the money. I'd make 15, 16, 18% off the money. And so here we are, we've got the food businesses, we've got the real estate. And honestly, Joey, I don't do anything with the real estate. I have managers that manage it. I have some of my units I hadn't been to in 3 years. And then we have the private money part. So we got these three things going, and things are good. We're creating income. But then I sat down with one of my mentors, Justin Kraft, and he started talking to me about infinite banking and the whole process. At that point is when everything really started taking off for us from a financial standpoint.
It's when you installed infinite banking.
Mm-hmm. Mm. It is. When I installed that into what we do, it allowed us to allocate capital in a savings mechanism that gave us more freedom to be able to do the things that we wanted to do, whether it be loan more in private money, buy more apartments. We've got a house at the lake that we have. It's two houses at the lake that are short-term rentals. I mean, it freed us up and allowed us to do so much more.
Let's go deep on IBC, because I think that's the main question that I have and the audience should have. So infinite banking, for someone who's never heard of this before, explain it to like you're talking to another business over a beer. Okay. Like, what is it? How does it actually work? And why have the ultra wealthy been using it for centuries?
That's a great question. So infinite banking is taking whole life insurance, okay, and minimizing the death benefit as much as possible. So people hear whole life, they think expensive and big and all that, okay? There are a lot of truths to that. Your dad's whole life policy that cost X number of dollars and you couldn't use the cash value for a number of years, that is very, very true. But what we do is we partner with the insurance company. Nelson said this, why don't we partner with the insurance company? Okay, we have a whole life policy that has as small a death benefit as we possibly can. And then what we're going to do is we're going to give the insurance company extra cash. So small death benefit, put a lot more cash in the policy. Okay, does that make sense? You tracking with me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so when we do that, what happens is we have access to use the insurance company's cash. Okay?
Okay.
So we have a death benefit, but then we also put extra cash. So let me make this clear. IBC is not an investment tool. IBC is a savings tool, okay? Savings dollars are dollars that we can't afford to lose, correct or incorrect?
Yeah, correct.
Investment dollars are putting money into an asset and hoping that it goes up in return. Yeah. There is a risk there. Yeah. With savings dollars, we don't take a risk on savings dollars, okay? Yeah. So this is a savings mechanism. I tell people this all the time. This is not an investment. We can use these dollars for investment purposes, but the vehicle itself is not an investment, okay? So we have a whole life policy, life insurance policy that will last forever. We put extra cash in there, okay? That cash is in the insurance company's money, but we can then borrow against that cash, okay? Now, let me go back. That cash in that policy is growing at what we call a guaranteed rate, okay? You can have a fixed rate, you can have a floating rate, you get to choose. the companies we use a fixed rate. Okay. So like, for example, the fixed rate I have is a 4% fixed rate plus a dividend. Okay. Now there's another key. You only want to use companies that are mutual insurance companies. Okay. Mutual insurance companies means it's owned by the clients, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So I put money in a life insurance policy. I put extra money. I get to use that extra money. Here's the key, just like I do the bank. So you're going to take your money and go to First Bank of Canada or First Bank of wherever you live, and you're going to put your money in that bank. And then you're going to call the bank and say, hey, I've got this much money. Can you give it to me? And they're going to say, yes, sir, Mr. Joey, we can. And they're going to give it to you. It's the same process. Okay. But here's the difference. At your bank, when you put $10,000 in there, you have access to that $10,000. Okay. You pull it out. It's gone. You're not going to get a very good rate. And that's it. If I put money in my IBC account, okay, I'm going to put that money with the insurance company. They're going to give me a rate. I'm not going to withdraw that money. I'm going to borrow against the principal.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I borrow against the principal, Joey, the money in that account is still going, is still growing. Can I give you an example?
Yeah, please.
This is an exact example of what I did. So I've got one of my infinite banking accounts. I've got 5. One of my policies, I've got $300,000. Okay. That policy is growing at 4.5%. Let's call it 4.5%. Let's just call it 4% for argument's sake. So it's growing at 4.5%. I did a hard money loan with a guy named Travis. I borrowed $200,000 off of that policy and I gave it to Travis. Okay. He is giving me 15% to use that money. Are you tracking that?
Yep.
He's going to pay me back in 6 months. So he's going to give me 15% in 6 months. All right.
Yeah.
When I borrowed this money, borrowed the $200,000, I've got to pay the insurance company 4% to use that money. I've got a fixed growth rate and I've got a fixed borrow rate. Are you tracking that?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm growing on 300. I borrowed 200. So I've got to pay interest on 200.
Yep.
Okay. It's a 4% annualized rate. So I'm going to use that money for 6 months. Okay. How much am I going to, not a trick question. I'm going to owe 2% because I only had it out 6 months. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So let's do the math real quick. I borrowed 200. I had to pay 2% interest because I only had it out 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is $4,000 that I had to pay.
Yeah.
Got it? I bought a 200. I gave it to Travis. Travis gave me 15%. That's $30,000 because it was $200,000. Are you tracking that?
Yeah.
So I made $30,000 off the loan. I had a carry cost or an interest cost of $4,000. So I'm up $26,000. You tracking that?
Yeah.
But what did the $300,000 do? It was still growing in the background as well.
Yeah.
So and it only was out 6 months. We can only track the 6 months. So the $300,000 grew at 4% over the 6 months. So it only grew 2% in that 6 months. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Okay. So if you are, whatever your business is, I don't care what it is. If you're cycling money, when I mean cycling money, money goes in, money goes out, money goes in, money goes out. If you're cycling money in your business, you got to have at least one of these policies so that you can cycle money in and cycle money out to capture the growth and recapture that interest.
Interesting. So the biggest benefit there is it also that money is tax free because it's technically debt that you get from that? Is that where the magic comes from, or is there something else?
That's a great question. That's a wonderful question. So here's how it's tax free in 2 ways. Anytime you borrow money, you don't pay taxes on that money.
Yeah, it's debt.
Right?
It's not income.
So if I want to pull out a HELOC on my house, or I wanted to do a securities backed line of credit, if I pull money off of that and I borrow that, I don't have to pay taxes on that dollar. Okay. Yeah. But anything in this policy that grows tax free. Why? Because it's not an investment. It is an insurance product. Okay. So the money in this insurance policy grows tax free. Now, here's the kicker. If I were to abandon this policy or dissolve this policy and just withdraw all the money and never pay it back or anything like that, that would be a taxable event.
Oh, yeah. A big one.
Big taxable event.
Yeah.
But all I'm doing is borrowing off this money. So my cash value increases over time.
Yeah. Because you don't touch
Am I making
principal.
sense? Do you understand this a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah. It makes more sense. Yeah.
Okay.
So interesting. So that's basically how you're able to not rely on banks to access capital and without worrying about the taxable event of taking more cash out of your company as dividends or salary is through that policy that you're able to lend it, and then you can do whatever you want with that money, right?
There's a handful of things that a policy does. It gives you control. It gives you liquidity. You have a guaranteed competitive rate. Okay, 4% is a competitive rate. Okay, and it's creditor protected. So those are the things that we have in this. Okay, the biggest thing is one of the biggest things is control. So Joey, let me give you another great example. In our catering business, I had to buy a van. I had a payroll issue because the summer's slow, and I had 3 or 4 things come up. I pulled out $75,000 of my IBC account and injected it into my business. All of those different expenses that came up. Okay. I spent 4 months and didn't pay back that loan at all. I am in control of that loan because it's my bank. Okay, does that make sense? But if I were to go to the bank and get a business line of credit, the bank would want an interest payment every month, correct? I don't have to do that with this. It gives me the control. I'm the one in control. Why? Okay, this is not a trick question. The reason the insurance company is not worried about loaning me the money is because there's a massive death benefit there. If I take the money and run to Mexico and never pay the money back, they got a collateral on the death benefit. Does that make sense? Everything in life needs to be collateralized when we're talking about loans. Okay. If you're making loans with no collateral, we need to sit and talk because that's a problem. They're giving us that money because they've got collateral. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Interesting. I want to ask you this. That personally. So I'm Canadian citizen. I used to have my companies there. That's where we started. We moved a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago to the US. Now we have corporations in the US. So I have access to all those strategies, right? When I'm hearing this, I don't know how, do you know anything about crypto? Are you knowledgeable with crypto?
A little bit, not a ton. Yeah.
Because I know it works a little bit the same where, again, it's decentralized. And I just can't stop thinking of it very similar. Again, this is not financial advice, right? This is just my opinion, your opinion, right? We're just sharing what education there. But it's basically if you have, it's not in the hands of the government. And I think that's that's kind of the theme right now that we're putting on. It's like the more you can have control over your money. And from what you're saying, again, crypto is an option and infinite banking is an option where you have the policy where it's not dependent on the bank itself. And when you take loans, it's not a taxable event. That would be my question, right? Is there anything that, that's comparable between those two options, within the crypto, or do you have any clients that comes to you like that?
Well, as far as crypto is concerned, the biggest the differences I would say would be crypto has a chance to go down. The value has a chance to go down. Okay. The value in this thing is contractual. It's not going to go down. They're giving you a guaranteed rate. Now, it's not going to be a massive swing. You can make a crap ton of money in crypto. It's kind of like the tortoise and the hare. I know you're from Canada, but there's a story when we grew up of the tortoise and the hare. Okay. The hare takes off really fast and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. He takes all these trails and rabbit trails and all this stuff. And the tortoise just continues to keep going. The freaking tortoise wins the race. Okay. Slow and steady is going to win the race ultimately. Now, there are a lot of massive hockey stick growth companies out there. I get that. But in these policies, Nelson, the guy that taught this policy and invented it, said there's 2 things that you have to always do. Number 1, don't be afraid to capitalize. Don't be afraid to load money into these policies, number 1. Number 2 is you have to think long-term. You have to think long-term because the longer these things go, the better they get over time.
Okay. That's interesting. That's good. That's good. And I want to talk about what you've said as well off air, which is the four corners of wealth, right? That's a framework that you have. And if we have the picture, we can put it on here, which is real estate, infinite banking, Wall Street, and business/lending, right? So walk us through like how these four corners of wealth work together, and why most business owners are stuck in one or two corners, and what happens when you activate all fours.
Sure. I had a guy one time that owned a massive amount of real estate, but his business, okay, bottom left corner, his business was sales. He was in sales. And what he decided to do is he would inject all of his profits from the sales business, okay, and he would buy real estate. Okay. So he'd take money earned, active income from one quadrant, and he would go buy real estate in another quadrant. Okay. Why would he do that? It's a slow appreciating at what we call asset. Has real estate went down in value in the past? Yes. Very, very rarely. Okay. But as inflation and just the dollar continues to go up and down, real estate is going to continue to rise in value. Some years it's a massive amount, some years it's a small amount. Okay. But what that does is that creates another asset. All right. There's a lot of people out there, the infinite banking space, Joey, that don't like Wall Street. They don't like their money being tied up in equities and things they can't control, okay? But I do believe that a section of our wealth should be involved and invested in the market. It is the biggest set it and forget it avenue out there. You can, what they call dollar cost average, put money in the market, shut your eyes, and go on about your business. And you sit there and you go, well, Thomas, why would I just shut my eyes? Why would I not play? The real estate game is to continue to buy, very similar to IBC that we just talked about. Let that pot grow. And when that pot grows, what we do is we can use that money, borrow from that money. It's called a securities-backed line of credit. Now, the rate that you do that at is a lot higher than an IBC loan, but it's still something that we believe in. So we've got business, some sort of business that's creating income. Profits from there are used to go into real estate, okay? The other reason real estate's good is because you can use the tax write-offs, the depreciation in real estate to lower your tax bill. Number three, how do we just continually drip money into Wall Street to use the economy of the world to help our wealth grow? But all of it can flow, as much as possible, can flow through our infinite banking or our storage tank, our tank of money that we can cycle money in and out. And that's where infinite banking comes in. So in my opinion, again, not financial advice. This is how I run our business. This is the way I run my life. And I've enjoyed it. And it's very, very stable. I'm not super flashy, but these are the four corners that we have wealth in our lives. Yeah, we got a house, but we've got real estate. We've got money in the market. We've got our business income, and then we've got our infinite banking. This is super stable. We don't do oil and gas. This is our life, okay? These four corners, in my opinion, are extremely stable. I just read a book called Invest Like a Billionaire, brand new book. And one of the things in there they said, Joey, and I'm not a billionaire, but one of the things they said is the bulk of billionaires, like overwhelming amount on average, only have about 30% of their wealth in the market. 30%.
Like actively right now?
Yes. 30% of their wealth is in the market. Okay. If you've ever met a billionaire, most of them are, like control and like power.
Yeah.
They're putting their money into other places that they can control.
Look at Musk, right?
Now,
how much of his freaking net worth is in the market right now? I'd say more than 30.
Oh, yeah. I would say, yeah. Oh, there's always the exceptions. Warren Buffett, always the exceptions. Musk, always the exceptions. Probably Zucks, always the exceptions. But here's the thing you don't realize is what have they used from their value in the market to go purchase? How have they leveraged something to go purchase something else? How have they leveraged something to buy things that we don't even know that they bought? That's the other thing you sit there and think of.
Yeah, it's through debts, right? And through taking loans out of that and collateral, like you said.
Because when they take those loans and they go buy that whatever, they're not taxed on that dollar.
Tax. Yeah.
Same way as I borrow from my infinite banking account, I'm not taxed on that dollar.
So basically building that IBC account kind of helps you act like a billionaire in that sense of like you're building your own kind of little treasure there that you can access tax-free, just like the ultra wealthy is doing, right?
It's the same thing. The number one holders of cash value, what we call cash value life insurance is what IBC is banks.
Yeah.
It's called bank-owned life insurance. They put these large, gigantic policies on these key men, and when they pass away, they get paid these massive amounts. It's another way that the ultra wealthy, hundreds of years ago, the ultra wealthy were spurning up legacy. Okay, this is a legacy play that when we pass on, the Bible's very clear that a good man takes care of his children's children. The Rockefellers are massive into this, where they take these insurance policies out, and when they pass away, that money gets not going to individuals, but goes into trusts so that can then perpetuate the family's wealth.
Like my question is like, of course I'm in the space, so I've heard about the concept, but I've never really understood it like I'm understanding it right now. And imagine a business owner that's not even in this space. It's not talking to guys like you every day. Like, why is it so unheard of? And like, why is it like not like if you go in the street, how many business owner do you think knows properly what IBC is, what infinite banking concepts is?
Oh,
and why is that 10%. The case? Why is that the case?
10%. Like I talked to a guy the other day that was net worth over $300 million. He didn't understand it, didn't know what it was.
And what's his reaction when you hear about it?
Huh?
What's his reaction? What's his reaction when you hear about it?
Anytime you introduce the topic, it takes some education because it's a little bit foreign. Okay. People hear insurance and they run the other way. Who likes to buy insurance, Joey? Every time you get associated with insurance, you think your car, your house, your health. You think I don't need it. Okay. But we all need life insurance. But why not use this mechanism in order to create wealth? Why not use an expense in order to create wealth for us and our families down the road? Back to your question. Why do people not know about it? A couple reasons, in my opinion. Number one, people are a little bit averse to insurance, the vehicle in which they do it. Number two, financial advisors don't like this concept of this process for a number of reasons. Number one, they don't totally understand it. Number two is when you take money and invest it, when you take money and you save it in these policies, when you put money in these policies, you are taking money out of the market that these financial advisors could get paid on and get used. It's very, very rare. There are some out there that understand and know that there is a place for IBC and then there is a place for the market. There is a place for both. You should never have all your money in IBC and you should never have all your money in the market. It is a seesaw of a balancing act of like, how much do I need here and how much do I need there? Financial advisors don't talk about it because it takes money out of their pocket. That's the God's honest truth, Joey. It's just the truth. But if you can understand both, that's where as fiduciaries, we can help people say, okay, you need some over here, but you also need some over here.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And this is the part that I think blows people's mind that you were saying too, is that you said that your money can compound in two of those corners at the same time. Like that sounds impossible, but can you walk us through how that works mechanically? Yeah,
sure. Okay, so compounding interest. You understand compound interest, okay?
Yeah.
So if you got $100,000 and you make 4% interest, you get 400 at the end of the year. It's $104,000. Well, then that next year, your new number is $104,000. And then you'll take 4% of that, and that continues to grow. It grows really, really slow. It's really like a snowball. It grows really, really slow to start off with. But over time, as that dollar continues to grow, or as you also put more dollars in the policies, it's an unstoppable force. It will continue to grow and grow and grow as time goes on. Okay. That's where the IBC concept. The other concept is real estate. Okay. I'll give you a great example. The first apartment complex we own, we paid $565,000 for a 10-unit apartment complex. Okay. Rent roll was about $5,600 a month. But what did we do? We sat there for a while. We didn't do anything. We slowly increased rents. Okay. So instead of getting $500 a month, we're getting $530. The next year we're getting $550. The next year we're getting $600, and we just slowly increase rents. As we slowly increase rents, they start doing other things around the property. And so the value of our property continues to go up.
Yeah.
7.5, 8 years later, we were offered $1.1 million for that property that we paid $560 for.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, in essence, it doubled in like 7, 8 years.
Pretty damn good.
That's not too bad.
Yeah.
Now, will it double in the next 7? Maybe not. But it'll continue to go up in value for 2 reasons. Number one, the value of that land will continue to rise. But number 2, the value of the income that you're making off those apartments will continue to go up too. This is why people love multifamily, Joey. This is why they do, because it can create a massive amount of cash flow and legacy.
So how does it grow in 2 corners? Like, what are the 2 corners that it grows into? Or is
real estate.
Real estate. And,
go ahead.
No, sorry.
Yeah,
go for
real
it.
estate and infinite banking. Now, I'll say this too. I don't ever plan on selling my brokerage account.
Yeah.
Where we buy every week or every month. I don't plan on selling that, because here's the thing. If over time I've put $500,000 in there and it's now worth $1 million, okay? If I were to pull that money out, I would have to pay what on that gain?
Mr. Uncle Sam.
Taxes.
Yeah.
Got to pay Uncle Sam. But if I can borrow off of that money and use it, why not do that? So here's the thing. When I die and I pass that on, that brokerage account, the ownership of that brokerage account will go to my trust. The brokerage account gets what they call a step up in basis. So instead of it being bought at 500 and worth $1 million, it is now the basis is $1 million. So they wouldn't do it, but if they decided to cash that account out after I died, they would owe no taxes on it because of the step up in basis. So that's why I sit there and I go, why would we ever sell anything in the market? There's going to be a lot of people that disagree with that, Joey.
Yeah.
But like, I don't have a plan to sell that stuff. Just keep buying it.
People sell because they think there's no other way to access the money.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I talked to a guy yesterday. He's got $3 million in his brokerage account. He plays a professional sport. And I walked through this process and I explained it to him. He's like, so I can go and ask them to borrow $100,000 for something. I said, and they'll give it to you. Yeah. I said, what happens if you take the $100,000 and you don't come back? What are they going to do? He just looked at me like I was crazy. Like, I don't know. I said, they're going to sell your Apple stock, or they're going to sell your Microsoft. They've got leverage. They've got collateral. Their collateral is, I can go sell some of this stock and get the company can get their $100,000 back.
Yeah. That's very interesting. I want to know the playbook, the business owner playbook to implement that. So like, give us a real example. I know you're talking to a lot of business owners on a daily basis. So like, let's say a business owner come at you, good money and netting $1 million a year, right? And they've got cash sitting in their accounts. I never heard of IBC before. And that money's doing nothing, right? Just sitting in their account. How do they actually implement that? And what does like month 1 look like, year 1 look like, and so on? Yeah,
that's great. Good question. So number 1 is at the end of the day, it's an insurance product and you have to be approved. Okay. So if you've got horrible health, it's going to be difficult to do this for you. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. So we got to get you approved. If you're not approved, okay, we can put a policy on your spouse. Yeah. So like, for example, the next policy I'm starting in the next probably month and a half is going to be on my wife, Jackie. Jackie's really healthy. I've got 2 policies on me. I've got 1 on each kid, which I do want to talk about before we get off. Yeah. Is I've got a policy on each kid. So you can put a policy on somebody. There's 4 parts to every policy, Joey. There's an owner, there's a payer, there's an insured, and there's a beneficiary. Okay. 3 of those 4 can be changed. The only thing that can't be changed is who the policy is insured on. Who is the human being that the policy's on. That's the only thing that can't be changed. Okay. So what we're going to do in year 1, let's walk through this in year 1. So I always get asked this. Okay. Hey, Thomas, what's the biggest negative to IBC? Yeah. Okay. Biggest negative to IBC is the first year cost. Okay. Not afraid to say it because it's going to come up in conversation anyway. But let me ask you a question. In the state of Alabama, if I wanted to start a bank, I would have to have $15 million, between $15 and $30 million, depending on who you ask, $15 and $30 million in liquid cash. It would take me 10 years to get what they call a bank charter. And then at that point, I could start my own bank. Okay. I got to hire people. I got to build buildings. I got to do all this stuff. So banking is expensive. All we're doing with this policy is we're using the insurance company's back office. We're using the insurance company, the insurance policy as a mechanism to store cash. Are you tracking me?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's take a $100,000 policy, Joey. Okay. Yeah. That policy is broken up into two parts. It's called, number one is called the base or the insurance part. Okay. The other part is the cash. Remember, we said earlier, we're going to build this policy for as little a death benefit as possible and fill up as much cash as we can that'll match up to that amount. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to buy some death benefit. That first year, Joey, the death benefit part is not liquid. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I can't use that death benefit part I purchased for the insurance. I can't use that in year one. What I can do in year one is I can use that amount that we've put in as cash. What's that amount? That's the next question. Is it 50%? Is it 60? Is it 70? Whatever. There are guys that do policies where 90% of it's cash. Those policies aren't very good in my opinion, because what happens is you get on down the line, you don't have a lot of death benefit for the policy to keep growing. Again, I'm getting into level 301 stuff. I'm going to try to keep it simple. So in year one, let's just say I've got access to $60,000 because it's costing me $40,000 for the policy or for the quote bank.
Yeah.
Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Okay. That's in year one. Your dad's old school whole life insurance policy, they didn't have access to the cash until like year 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Okay. Not the way we write these policies these days. Okay. Year 2, you put in $100,000 again. You've got access to like 95,000 of that $100,000. So you put the 100,000 in, you can access all of that 95 and 60 from the year before. Are you understanding this?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a little bit of cost of insurance in year 2, but for the most part, it's not there. All right. Let's go to year 3. Again, don't be afraid to capitalize. Think long term. We're in year 3 at this point. Year 3, I put another $100,000 in. I've got access to all 100,000 of those dollars, the 95 from the year 2 and the 60 from year 1. Are you tracking that?
Yeah.
Now, I am not factoring in growth at all. I'm not factoring in any dividends. I'm not factoring in our guaranteed growth, not factoring in any of that. I'm just talking about cash outlay.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All of that money that we've put in there, we got access to that money when we want to use that for whatever we want to use it for. Here's the freedom part of that. I ain't got to ask anybody about using that money. I can use that money whenever I want. If I want to go get a loan from a bank, it's going to take 15, 30, 45, 60 days sometimes. And here's the thing that I've learned in the real estate business, just as an example. Speed, velocity of money is what helps deals be good and what makes deals go bad. Velocity, when you see a house that's for sale, I'll give you a great example. There's a house that was for sale, two streets over from me that was someone passed away and the estate didn't want the house. And so they were selling it next to nothing. There were 35 people there, Joey, looking at that house because I live in a pretty good neighborhood. 35 people. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think the people that are selling the house are going to want to wait 45 days for someone to get approved?
They want it now.
No.
Yeah.
What are they going to do? They're going to take less money
Fire sell
for a cash offer that can close next week.
Yeah.
So I call the bank or call my IBC company and say, hey, send me 150 grand. Take the 150 grand, go purchase the house. Velocity, speed. They say speed kills in football. Speed kills in just about everything, every part of our life.
100%.
Okay. There's a long answer to a short question. What questions do you have about me explaining that?
So I need to understand, first of all, that as a business owner, I need to have the liquidity to be able to think long term, right? if my business is not giving me the liquidity, or I'm having profitability issues, or the first part that you say about margins, I'm thinking that might not be for me, right? Is that right?
Yeah. Listen, let me tell you this right now. And I've said this before in a lot of other videos and on my podcast. Hey, infinite banking is not for everybody. Okay. This isn't like your dad's checking account at the local bank. This isn't for everybody. If you don't have excess cash and you don't have some liquidity, this isn't for you. You can't do this if you're, month to month on your business and month to month on your personal finance. You can't. We deal with people that are cycling a lot of money. I got an HVAC guy. He brings in about $700,000 or $800,000 a year. He's got margin. He pays himself about $60,000, but he's a really good candidate for this business because he can sock in $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 a month, depending on what we set the policy at, into this account. Hey, in 2 years, he's going to have $100,000 in this account. 2.5 years, he's going to have $100,000 in this account, Joey, that he can buy trucks with. He can hire an employee. He can run a marketing campaign. He can do whatever he wants to because he's got this silo over here of cash that he can use for whatever he wants to use it with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So there's the speed. Like if you look at like the biggest outcome or the biggest positive, and like would you say that it's for like what's the floor? Like what's the minimum level? Would you say profitability of the business is the number one criteria, or there's another more important qualification criteria? And what's that floor so that someone say, okay, that might be for me. I might be looking into this.
The question is this. The question is not what's the minimum I can do. Okay, and I know why you asked it. You don't have this thought process, but I know why you asked it. If you're asking what's the minimum I can do, number one, the first thing we need to change is your thought process. We got to get you thinking bigger. That's the first thing, okay? The second thing is what type of business do you have? So what is the velocity of your business, and what are the cash flows of your business? So I'm going to give you two great examples. If you can't tell, I like to tell stories. So there's two different thoughts there. So I'm going to give you the first thought. I've got a 10-year-old that I started a policy on her when she was 8. I put $12,000 a year into her policy, $1,000 a month, okay? Or I just pay it all at one lump sum. That's a small policy, okay? But she's 8. She's not going to mess with this policy for years, okay? But when she's 25, Joey, she's going to have $220,000 of cash value that she's going to have access to. Okay? Story 2. I've got a friend of mine in Huntsville. Her business does between $5 and $7 million depending on the year. She's got a policy that she pays $235,000 a year into. So we're talking two totally ends of the spectrum. My HVAC guy's policy is $40,000 a year. My real estate flippers is $96,000 a year. I'm fixing to do one on a doctor in Pennsylvania for $320,000 a year. So this is where like it's not an out of the box, hey, here's your policy format. This is, all right, let's sit down and look at your cash, look at your equities. What do you have? What's your margin? And sit and talk. Because I'm going to be honest with you. I had an appointment last 2 weeks ago with a lady. She had $70,000 in the savings account. That's awesome. She had $40,000 of credit card debt. She's living month to month. She's living paycheck to paycheck. I just looked at her and I said, hey, ma'am, I said, this is awesome. I said, but you know what? This is not something for you. This would be a burden rather than freedom for you, okay? Because here's the thing. When we commit to these policies, this is something that not many people talk about online. When we commit to these policies, Joey, we are committing to doing this for at least 7 years, okay? We're doing these because we have to pay into these policies for 7 years in order for the whole life, the insurance aspect to stick. Does that make sense? Because if I don't pay into it 7 years, it then becomes an investment because that's just a rule we have in America. Okay, we got to pay into these things for 7 years. Now I can pay into them for 30 years if I want to, but the minimum I have to pay into these things is 7 years.
So it's the type of thing that like the more money you have, the more beneficial it becomes. The more liquidity you have, the more beneficial it becomes. Is it?
Okay. Yeah. So let me ask you a question. If you made $4,000 a month and you saved $1,000 a month into one of these policies, that would probably move the needle for you.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
If you're making $4,000 a month. What if you made $200,000 a month, Joey? Would $1,000 a month move the needle for you that make $200,000 a month?
No. It's a percentage, no?
It's a ratio, it's a percentage, it's a whatever.
Yeah.
I have to be honest, I'm dealing with a guy right now. He's got $170,000 in a savings account at the local bank. His house is paid off, his car is paid off, and his wife makes about $120 a year. He makes about $170 a year. Guy's sitting pretty good.
Yeah.
We can do a pretty sizable policy for this guy because of his liquidity and because of what he's allocated and what he saved. I was like, hey, dude, let's take some of that money that's in a savings account drawing 0.1%. Let's put it in one of these policies so it'll grow the rest of your life. He started watching the videos that we put out and started seeing all that. And it's like, okay, this makes sense. So everybody's different.
Yeah.
And so for you to sit there and say, what's the minimum? Lord, I don't know what the minimum is. I mean,
it's relative.
I know we did a policy on a guy that owns a bunch of veterinarian clinics, and we did a policy for $3 million a year.
Yeah. That was a minimum for him.
$3 million a year into this policy. You know what I'm saying? So we go from 3 million to 12,000.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Everything is perspective. And I think that's where the value of having professional advice, look into your own situation, is 100% key for these types of products and services, because everybody's different. You need your own set of eyes on your stuff before making any decision, right?
Everything. I'm a team guy. Coached college football for many years. The quarterback looks totally different than the left tackle.
Yeah.
Okay. They look totally different, but we got to have both of them on the team in order to be successful.
Yeah.
I deal in annuities and infinite banking. I'm really, really good at those two things. I understand the market, but I don't advise on the market. My mentor, Justin, is a whiz in the market.
Yeah.
Daniel's my lawyer. I don't know anything about trust law. Daniel understands trust law. Okay. I could go on and on and on. It takes a team in order to create the best possible outcome. And the better that team is, the better these parts of that team is, the more wealth you're going to create, because you got people that understand their sphere, and their sphere of influence is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. So building your team 100%.
Yeah.
Thomas, you have 3 kids, right?
I've got 3 kids, 17, 14, and 10. And
you were saying earlier that, they all have a policy, do they? On IBC.
They do.
For business owner parents watching this, like, explain how you're building generational wealth and teaching your kids about money at the same time and the benefits of doing this.
If you're a business owner out there and you're not paying your kids the IRS limit, and don't have a policy on each of your kids, then we need to sit down and talk. And here's why I say that. Is the IRS number is $15,000 a year. I can pay my kids $15,000 a year for nominal duties. I pay them the $15,000 a year. And on that 15, let's make sure I'm super clear. And again, this is not tax advice. I'm telling you what I do.
Yeah.
I pay them $15,000 a year. I pay the payroll taxes, and I pay the state tax. I don't have to pay federal income tax, which is the largest tax there is.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm paying them 15, but there's really more money going into that thought than just the 15. Okay. The 15 goes in from the business checking account. I get the deduction. I get to write off that 15. 15 times 3 for me, so 45.
Yeah.
The 15,000 goes into her checking account. And then from her checking account, the money sweeps over into her infinite banking policy. Are you tracking that?
Yep.
I get the deduction. The business is creating wealth for each one of my kids. And then there are drip conversations throughout their life. We don't sit down and have these massive whiteboard sessions. We do once a year, but we talk about their IBC policy. what we're doing, where the money's going, the things we can do with it. Okay. So we have these conversations. The more we can have these conversations, Joey, the more they're going to get it. Okay. At that point, we just continue to teach about the banking function, being good stewards of our money. How do we give? How do we live below our means? How do we have margin? All of those things. It's not this grandiose, event.
Yeah.
It's a 15-minute conversation on the way to volleyball practice.
Yeah.
It's a 15-minute conversation at dinner. It's just drips. Okay. There's a saying that raindrops make oceans.
Yeah.
Okay. These little bitty raindrops that we can drop on our kids, and what they hear, Joey, but what they also see is what's going to create that impact for them and what's going to create them to be good citizens and good managers of wealth. That's
really amazing. That's really good. Yeah. I think if there was one takeaway, the biggest takeaway is that, it's like, it's for your family that you're doing this most of all, right? It's preparing for generations. And you said it, right? Like, what's the phrase you use about your kids' kids?
Yeah. The Bible says a good man takes care of his children's children. Yeah. It's in Proverbs.
Yeah.
Okay. We do that through legacy, and we do that through our trust and our insurance policies.
That's amazing. That's great, Thomas. And again, I think we're going to have you back on. I think there's a lot of insights that we can talk. We could talk for hours and hours, but I have to cut this one there. I want to invite you guys, the audience watching this, if there's takeaways or comments or questions, we're going to collaborate with Thomas on this one. So please drop them in the comments, and we'll be more than happy to answer them and ask your questions, your takeaways, and that's going to guide us for our next conversations. But before we go, Thomas, I want to leave on a last question, which is you talk about family, finances, food, right? The 3 Fs. So you're building businesses, raising 3 kids, creating systems for generational wealth. If this episode outlives all of us, which I hope it will, what's the one lesson about money and wealth you would want every business owner to walk away with from this episode?
Oh man, I think it'd be hard to have one, Joey. I would say this. I'm gonna give you a 1A and a 1B. 1A is create margin. Okay. It's an old school principle of living below your means, but create margin. That would be 1A. 1B, and we really didn't hit on it, Joey, is stewardship or giving. Yeah. Like, the analogy that I'll leave everybody with is this. In Alabama, we have these things, these bodies of water that are pond. They're called ponds. You have oceans, you have lakes, you have rivers, you have ponds. Yeah. Ponds are bodies of water that, if not taken care of properly, they can get stagnant and they can die. Yeah. The reason being is they don't have an inflow of water, and they don't also outflow of water. Yeah. Okay. Money is the same thing. Okay. Money's got to circulate in our lives. The outflow part, we got to give. There's someone out there that's less fortunate. We got to give, but we also got to have some coming in. So teaching the flow of money and the stewardship of money is absolutely important. And then also having margin in our finances and having our lives is absolutely critical in every aspect of our life. That's great. That's great. Thomas, again, I think we've spoke for an hour. You're an amazing human being. So I want to thank you for sharing this. And I think you've got really, really strong values that a lot of business owners, and even if you're not a business owner, could take away from and just be a better person for themselves, for their families. So I want to thank you for that. That was very great. And keep doing what you're doing. I think you're helping a lot of people. So thank you for coming on. And for people watching this, all we're asking, if you like this video, just like and subscribe for more, and share in the comments any questions or takeaways you had from it. And we'll see you guys on the next one. So thank you guys for your time.